listening to The Gender Rebels.
I'm Kathleen, a cis woman and ally.
And I'm Faith, a trans woman.
Gender Rebels is a question and answer podcast that explores life outside the gender binary.
A big thanks to our Patreon supporters.
If you'd like to support the show, go to patreon.com/genderrebels. Hey everyone, I'm Kath.
And I'm Faith.
Hey Faith, I got a question.
Sure.
We talked about this last week. You don't watch transgender TV shows or movies, or you don't read the books. I know for a fact that I had the Vanity Fair with Caitlyn Jenner on the cover for like a month on the coffee table, and you never cracked it.
I did not crack it. Although I have read transgender books. I read Dreadnought.
Yes.
Link down below, which we definitely recommend. Mm-hmm. And I just today purchased a copy of The Prince and the Dressmaker, which I've not yet read, but I've heard amazing things about.
And you write transgender books.
And I write transgender books. Link down below. American Transgirl, now available on Amazon.
But TV shows and movies, what gives? Why don't you watch it?
You know,
have you always not watched?
I have a very complicated relationship with transgender-related media.
Okay.
Because my own journey, it took me so long to kind of come to terms with my own transgender being and to transition and stuff. Mm-hmm. So there was always this kind of dichotomy of like, yeah, something would interest me, but also I couldn't let it interest me too much, lest I give myself away or out myself or something.
So this is all when you're a little kid or when you're in high school or things like that. Okay.
Yeah. Okay. Like growing up, I remember if there was anything trans-y at all, be that cross-dressing or anything transgender or stuff like that, I was fascinated by it. Like if it came on the show, like I remember like there were drag episodes of like Silver Spoons.
Okay.
Where like Ricky Schroeder lost a bet or something and had to
wear a dress.
And the hilarity, and Happy Days where there's like a fraternity initiation or something, so Richie has to dress up and, of course, dance with the fawns.
Oh, of course.
And, that's all awkward and hilarious. Or Leave It to Beaver. Wally was in the school play and played a female character for some reason.
Wow, okay.
All boys school, I guess. Mm-hmm. So there are things like that, like Bosom Buddies.
Of course. Got Tom Hanks' SAG card.
Yes, and the other guy whose
name... What's his name? Yeah.
What's his name? There's
Garfunkel.
IMDb. Go find it.
I think it was Garfunkel.
Yeah, and so I remember things like that. Chippendale's Rescue Rangers had a episode where they
had to dress like girls?
Had to dress like girls to infiltrate Fat Cat's nightclub, I think. It's been a while since I've seen this. But that's the point. There was always some sort of contrived reason for the character to dress as in this case, and pretty much always male to female.
Of course it was a contrived reason. No one would do that.
Exactly. And of course, this is something that Kids in the Hall comedian Scott Thompson said, that it's funny because a man dressing as a woman is lowering his status.
Yep.
But a woman dressing as a man isn't lowering her status.
Yep.
So Mulan is not hilarious.
Exactly.
Whereas,
they did that a lot on Kids in the Hall. They did. Had no actresses.
They were very... Kids in the Hall were very skilled at cross-dressing for their sketches. Mm-hmm. I used to love Kids in the Hall for that reason. And other reasons. They're just hilarious.
What do you mean by skilled? Because it wasn't like they disappeared into the character.
They didn't, but they just looked really good in there. They tried... They didn't do like Monty Python where they were just all old pepper pot, middle-aged housewives.
Okay.
Talking in their silly voices. They tried to be young and pretty and,
Okay.
So.
They all seem sort of pepper pot to me, but okay.
I was young and it was something transy on TV.
Gotcha.
And it was sort of gay, so, it definitely fascinated me.
Yeah, I mean, I wonder how much of this is like about gay stuff, a gay character on a thing.
Yeah.
Or the gay, Three's Company or something, now.
Well, we weren't allowed to watch Three's Company.
Neither?
No, it was too risque, too racy.
Well, it could turn you gay, obviously.
It could. So that's the point. It was always a male character who lost a bet or had some other really contrived reason for breaking gender norms.
Yes.
And hilarity always ensued.
Of course.
Always so funny and funny and funny. Like, I remember there used to be this show in the 80s called Practical Jokes and Bloopers.
Okay.
Do you remember this?
Kinda.
Ed McMahon. Yeah. And I remember there was one where they dressed a straight cis guy up in drag and he sort of came out to his brother that he was getting a sex change. Wacky! Oh my gosh, how shocking and embarrassing and hilarious that someone would even consider that.
Oh, bro, you really had me going there. Woo!
Yeah, so I mean, that's kind of, as a kid, that's kind of what I absorbed. Mm-hmm. Obviously, anytime that happened, my interest would kind of perk up, and I'd be like, oh, that's cool. And I'd be like into it and excited that it was on the show, but it was always comedic. It was always hilarious. It was always about someone degrading themselves.
Of course.
So as I got older, I think my ears would still kind of perk up when something trans came on. Like, even though I started, as you get older in media, you stop watching Chip and Dale's Rescue Rangers.
Speak for yourself.
Speak for myself. And the amount of gadget-themed porn on the internet is just absurd. But, so there's like a lot of you start to notice as you get older, your tastes start going more adult. You get into the PG-13, the R-rated stuff. Silence of the Lambs. I already wrote a piece on my blog about how kind of, it touches on transgender themes a bit sort in the plot, but it's the transgender serial killer. So, Ace Ventura, Pet Detective.
Oh God.
Ugh. Yeah. That's, that and like Naked Gun, 33 and a Third, both played on stereotypes of like the trans woman out to trick the straight guy. That's what trans women do. They just want to trick straight men into, pull that gotcha. So and then there was also like all that stupid daytime talk shows. Your Jerry Springers, your Ricky Lakes, your Sally Jesse Raphaels.
Yeah, those were big.
Quick to trot out a trans person or, for shock value.
Right.
Yeah.
So it's never like, come out, we want to hear about your journey. What's life like for you now? It was always like, oh, what?
Yeah, it was, they'd be like, there'd be some guy dating a woman, and then the woman's really a man, and it was always, I'm really a man. That's what they always had to say.
I'm really
a man. Yeah. So that's kind of what I saw. Everything had crying game jokes. That was big in the 90s.
Oh,
I grew up in the 90s. So I was born in 80. So this is going to be very tuned to my knowledge and what I absorbed. Yeah.
That makes sense.
So younger people out there are going to know anime. I never knew anime. It's too early for anime. There's all kinds of gender bending stuff in anime. That's probably why young kids today are like way more cool with it. They grew up with it. We didn't have it. I mean, we did have anime, but it was all like Speed Racer and things like that. It was kind of crappy.
Yeah.
But there's also classic rock songs. Lou Reed, Take a Walk on the Wild Side. The Kinks, Lola. There were things like that. So there were.
Was Lou Reed gay?
I think Lou Reed was bi.
Okay. Anyway, go on.
But yeah, so there was there were trans topics out there, but they were generally very negative portrayals.
Yeah. If not comedy, then fear or hatred.
Yeah, or shock. Just simply shock. To be like, oh, look at this weirdo. Let's all laugh at this weirdo, or let's all just gawk at the train wreck that is this weirdo's life.
So when you saw that, did you think, I guess I'm a weirdo, or did you think, well, clearly that's not me. I'm separate from this.
I grew up the whole time like deeply ashamed because I knew I had these feelings. I knew I went to bed every night contriving in my mind like elaborate ways that I could become a girl via sci-fi technology, gods, miracles, or
magic pebbles,
any number of things. Never happened, but
it did happen.
It did happen, but with
Here we
science.
are.
Go science.
Yay, science!
I carried with me a deep sort of shame that, like, because society,
this is what I am, and this is what everyone's laughing at.
Yeah, this is the shocking thing. This is the, like, oh my God, what a, in the case of trans women, what duplicitous men these are. Gay men. Duplicitous gay men these are, trying to trick straight guys. And yeah, the sort of surprise reveal, that's like the big crying game thing.
Gotcha.
Is like the gotcha. Although the crying game was more complex than that, so.
Never did see it. Should I?
It's okay. I watched it actually in the same kind of period, and it's not, I won't say it's negative necessarily about the trans character, but I wouldn't call it positive either.
And it's like the shock, the big reveal.
It's the story's told obviously through a cis male's point of view, because
it's a story. Hello, it's a movie.
Yeah, so it is very much, you get his point of view. So he's shocked, you know, and because he thought she was a cis woman, and it turns out she's not, and he's all freaked out, and then it sort of gets a little more, there's kind of a romance there, but I wouldn't go as far as to say it's positive, although it's not entirely negative either, so. Yeah. So speaking of movies like The Crying Game, as I got kind of older, high school, college, my library I had my own like Blockbuster card, my own Hollywood video card. Back in the day, we actually had to go to stores.
We went out to get
a VHS tape of a movie and bring it home and watch it. And my library, the public library, had a big bunch of tons of movies. They had thousands of movies in order chronologically by when they were received by the library.
Oh, for fuck's sake.
So you had to go through and like look through tons of them. But I started being able to kind of get my own movies, and my parents were not at that point in my life, not really as major an influence in my life.
They were keeping an eye on your movie
we're not
options.
keeping an eye on my movie options. So I kind of got to explore a little. So there's I kind of found that there were movies that were positive in their portrayals, or maybe complex in their portrayals. And so I would watch these things, and I would get I would make sure, I would like hope no one ever caught me watching them.
Yes.
You know, the same thing with like books from the library. My college library, I remember I would looked up like transsexual or things like that in the catalog and read all those books, but I didn't check them out. I read them in the library because I didn't want them showing up on my
record.
On my record. And some terrible books. They only had like 3, but I read them, and one of them I remember was Transsexual Empire, which is like a big kind of don't read it. It's very anti-trans. Yeah. So, so
what were some of the movies?
Like Different for Girls was a kind of British indie movie that was, again, sort of told from the male point of view.
Of course.
So it's a straight guy, bumps into an old classmate who is now a woman, and through various things they hook up, even though the guy's initially kind of hesitant, obviously. Not a great movie, but it was okay. Its portrayal of trans women was, again, more complex,
a little more complex.
Not want to say 100% positive, but more complex.
All right.
And then this one, Mon Vie and Rose.
Oh,
do you remember this one?
I do.
This one I remember I watched it on TV, again hoping no one would show up, because why would I be watching that movie?
It's crazy. I'm a
straight cis guy.
Yeah. I'm looking for the game.
Yeah. No, that one is about a little kid who I remember wanted to wear a skirt to a party, and like the parents are all freaking out. It's Italian or French, or
I think it's French.
French, yeah. And that was just a cute movie. And again, trans stuff is, I want to say, portrayed positively in that movie.
Yeah. Link down below. Watch it.
Hedwig and the Angry Inch. That was one I very much enjoyed, and I just remember seeing the poster for it when it came out. It was David Cameron Mitchell, and just fantastic makeup. And again, at this point in the 90s, the difference between trans and drag and all those things weren't quite clear in my head. So,
or cross-dressing
so I really liked Hedwig, which, again, complex. I want to review Hedwig for my blog, but
do that.
It's complex because Hedwig's not necessarily she's not transgender.
No, it's complex.
It's complex,
Read Faith's review. You'll see.
Priscilla, Queen of the Desert. I remember watching this one in high school, and it again, is complex. It features some violence against gay men who are drag queens.
Yes.
So it's not really a trans story, but they live as women. So
yeah, they do.
It's kind of...
I think one of them might be more trans than drag queen.
Yeah.
The older one.
I think so. Again, it's a more complex portrayal. So again, as you see these things, progress into the 90s and say for instance early 2000s, you do get things that are more complex, and it's starting to become normalized. You're able to find media where it's not necessarily negative,
or the whole point of everything.
Yeah, the whole point of everything isn't shock and humor. It's you're able to be more complex. And so I remember in TV, the Drew Carey show. Do you remember that?
Yeah, but I didn't remember. One of the guys was a crossdresser?
Drew Carey's brother was a crossdresser.
Oh, okay.
/ potentially trans, because you only ever saw him in femme, in girl mode. So,
and that was the joke 100% of the time? That was sort of the character?
Kind of normal. All the other characters just kind of accepted this person. Huh. And so it was sort of a joke, but on the other hand, it was kind of normalizing it.
Okay. Weird.
And again, I don't recall every episode of that show, so, if there was terrible ones,
there might have been some shitty ones.
Yeah. Yes. And then I remember Dharma and Greg.
Never saw an episode in my life.
It was, it's Chuck Lorre.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Huh.
They had an episode where like Dharma owned a business that sold cross-dressing supplies. Really? Yeah.
Oh.
And because they would ship them in boxes that said sporting goods on them. And that was, again, normalized. It was kind of like portrayed as this very normal thing. Mm-hmm. Still funny, obviously.
Yeah.
But
plenty
a little
of
more
jokes there.
Yeah, a little more normal. And when I say normal, I mean like normal in the sense that like this is part of society. This is something that people do. Mm-hmm. We can still chuckle at it, of course. But it is part of society. It does exist. Yeah. And one of the things that was really a huge influence for me was in college catching an HBO airing kind of randomly of Eddie Izzard's Dressed to Kill. Mm-hmm. And that fucking blew me away because one, Eddie Izzard's hilarious.
Yes.
And he's hilarious in the way that I like, which is like a bunch of weird history jokes.
Yes.
Things like that. And the fact that he talked at that point about being a crossdresser and just made it like so normal and cool. Executive transvestite and not he has a whole bit, and check this out, please, it's hilarious, but he has a whole bit about weirdo transvestites and executive transvestites, and he's like, I'm more the executive transvestite,
And then he talks mostly not about being transvestite.
Yeah.
Like he acknowledges it and he has some bits about it, but it's not the whole point.
It isn't.
Of his whole, it's not like a one-trick pony.
No,
He's got a lot of really good material, and he happens to be wearing lipstick and whatever kind of suit he's wearing.
Exactly. And he explained cross-dressing in a way that I had never heard anyone else really explain it so well.
What did he say?
He talked about being like a male tomboy. Like you like running and jumping and climbing trees and putting on makeup while you're up there. And he's hilarious, and I can't do it justice just to like explain the joke. So please, if you haven't seen it, check it out. He just came out transgender.
Yes.
And sort of in a gender queer kind of way, which good for him.
Yeah.
I love Eddie Izzard.
He's awesome.
Yeah. And then the other one that was Rupaul, who Rupaul's show has some issues with trans women these days. Trans women aren't allowed to compete on
Drag Race?
Drag Race, even though trans women played a huge role in the development of drag, and that's a whole topic for another episode. But when I saw RuPaul back in the day in the 90s, she had a show on MTV, and RuPaul's just
RuPaul's complicated,
but at the time, RuPaul was just glam and beautiful, and like, okay.
What was the show in the 90s?
It was just like a talk show.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. She would just interview people. So as we get like in the 2000s, later in the 2000s, like you still get negative portrayals.
Of course.
You still get the idea of like trans women shocking people. I remember How I Met Your Mother, which was a good show for the first couple seasons, had some kind of very negative like trans things.
What?
Yeah, just of the idea of like, I'm really, the woman who, you go on a date. These are guys like worst nightmare fantasy sequences where like the girl's like, I'm really a dude,
Oh my God.
things like that. And the same thing, like Always Sunny has.
Always Sunny does have that character, but
That one character.
At least how it's written is, it's the problem of the gang, and
Yeah.
she's just doing her thing and is really hot, and that's all.
and is living a happy life.
Yeah.
and it is the gang that's just are the jerks. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. And whichever one dates her likes her despite that.
Yeah, sort of. That's complicated because they also like have that character being kind of like in the closet gay, which again says like trans women are men because
Really
obviously
men.
a gay man is attracted to them. Yeah, again negative but rarer.
Yeah.
South Park is another one.
Who's on that? I haven't watched it in a few years.
No one's been on it, but they did a whole episode about. It's sort of like being transgender, except like Kyle wants to become a dolphin, and so they.
Okay.
It's compare it to that. So like trans people are crazy, and they had the high school teacher, or not high school teacher, but the kids teacher became Mrs. Garrison, and it was just all played as like a huge hilarious joke.
All right.
So not a fan of South Park still had some funny episodes.
I like South Park in general, but
I don't like it when they tackle that. And again, Always Sunny, I'm also a fan. I've seen every episode. Mm-hmm. Don't like those. Don't like it when they do. Yeah, wish they didn't do that. So again, things are becoming rare. And then nowadays,
everything's fine.
Everything's
great.
Well, there's a ton of stuff. I think we started seeing in the mid 2000s. We started seeing the Oscar bait transgender movies.
Oscar bait.
And that's like Boys Don't Cry, Trans America. These are I didn't watch Boys Don't Cry and I didn't watch Trans America.
So you don't actually know if they're good or bad.
I don't.
Okay.
I know that I kind of didn't want to see them for the same reason that, I didn't want someone catching me watching
Sure.
Ed Wood or something back in the day.
Okay.
Like I didn't want to go to the theater and watch a movie like that. I wasn't going to rent it. I had roommates at the time.
Okay.
So it's very much like, I didn't want to draw attention to my own transiness.
Yes.
By watching those. And then I happen to be personally kind of turned off by Oscar bait movies.
Yeah.
Every time like November rolls around and it's just Academy Award season and everyone's doing the really big Oscar baity movies. I don't like them. I just would rather just watch the movies I watch.
Yeah.
I don't like the ones that are really cramming, like, I want awards, down your throat. I don't dig it. So I always felt like those generally fit into that category.
I wonder if that's sort of a phase in the development of a transgender or even a cross-dressing or genderqueer character. If it goes from comedy to the bad guy to Oscar bait and then, maybe I could just be a normal person.
Yeah, that gay men went through that same thing.
Ah,
right.
All right. That sounds familiar.
From like Billy Crystal in Soap in the 70s to Tom Hanks' Philadelphia, trying to what a brave choice of Tom Hanks playing a gay man.
Courage.
Yes.
Yeah.
And so that's kind of how I felt when it was like the courage of these people to play trans characters and these cis people to play trans characters in movies. How courageous of them. I just didn't. So there's a lot of transgender movies like these days. And especially TV. One of the Oscar baits that we did watch was Danish Girl, and I hated that movie.
Hated or just
hated? It was trying to make it normal. It was trying to be good, but it was still Oscar bait.
Yeah,
because like you said, there's that
evolution.
There's that evolution, and we're not quite past Oscar bait.
Okay. It's still too good. There's still too much inherent drama.
Exactly, it's still too brave a choice. I didn't like Danish Girl because it played like a forced feminization, story that you would read online. Not that I ever read those, not that I know anything about them.
You just seemed very familiar about them when we did the live tweet.
I did. I was like, oh my God, now they're getting the stockings out, of course. Yeah, but there's tons of stuff. Orange is the New Black, Liver and Cox, Sense8 with our favorite Jamie Clayton, Transparent with Jeffrey Tambor. Tangerine. I didn't see Tangerine. You saw Tangerine.
I saw Tangerine.
I feel like sometimes with these movies, with trans stuff, I feel like I'm supposed to watch it. Like I'm like society, people expect me to watch it.
Yeah.
And when I'm kind of expected to watch something, I kind of tend to get a little turned off by it.
But one could argue, in line of this idea that you're supposed to watch it, is like Hollywood is finally reaching out and trying to tell your story.
They are, and again, in a show like Sense8 or Orange is the New Black, where there is that representation
of an actual actor who's trans, not a guy in a dress.
Exactly, not a cis character playing a trans, a brave cis actor
the
playing
bravest cis male actor we could find.
Oh God, Jared Leto.
So brave.
So brave. So brave. So I kind of have a very complicated relationship with transgender media because on the one hand, like, yeah, I kind of like the idea that there's representation on screen, even if it's by cis actors. But on the other hand, I feel like that it's tokenizing my life, that it's people trying to be brave by pretending to be what I live every day.
Yeah.
And that's what I don't like about it.
Yeah.
And that it's Oscar baity, which is just another movie genre that I'm just not a big fan of. Combine all that and combine my shame that I still carry with me of like, what if someone catches me watching a trans thing? They'll know I'm trans. Now they probably would have a clue.
Everyone watches those. Now they might know. But it's so interesting to me that growing up, while trans media was evolving, you were also evolving. So it went from a place where you were like, oh, this is a real thing in the real world, and your ears perked up and you watched it, to a place where now you're like, stop trying to make a horrific tragedy out of using a very courageous cis male actor to tell my story. Yeah. Like it's back when you were little, you weren't necessarily outing yourself by watching something, but now you think you would, just as we're coming to the point where the quality is arguably better.
Yeah.
Maybe not to your taste, but
I've still seen a few here and there. But I remember, I think this one story like sums it up. It's like I was visiting a friend of mine in a red state and staying at her house, and her husband and me and her were like in the living room watching TV, and it was the show Drop Dead Gorgeous, which I had never seen before. But as the episode ended, my friend turned to me and she was like, so the next episode has a transgender character. Do you want to watch that? Or is that too much right now? Because and I was like, yeah, let's skip
that one.
But again, I feel like every time that I'm in the situation like that, if there's a trans character on the screen, played by a cis actor, played by a trans actor or not, I feel like the audience eyes are on me.
Yeah.
I felt like this when we saw Trainspotting in the theater, and there was a very negative portrayal of a trans woman in that, and oh my God, as soon as that scene came on, I just wanted to slink into my seat and disappear. No one's watching. No one pays attention to anyone else in the movie theater, but I just didn't want to be in there because that was on the screen. And so I feel like that. I feel like eyes are on me anytime there's a trans thing on TV or on a movie screen. And I don't know, just doesn't always make me comfortable.
I understand. It makes sense. Yeah. Okay. Well, I hope the media will evolve. I hope there will be more comedies in addition to The Switch, link down below.
Yeah.
I hope there will be just normal, regular characters on normal TV shows, and it's not a huge thing.
Yeah. Played by trans actors.
Played by trans actors, for fuck's sake.
And wasn't there Candace Cain played a trans character on Elementary. Oh. And it was no big deal. I never watched Elementary.
Never watched it.
Yeah.
Maybe.
Maybe.
Yeah. And I hope those roles will evolve from like single episode guest spots or 3-episode arcs to actually being consistent long-term roles for the actors.
Yeah.
I think we're moving in that direction.
I think we are.
And you can tell an interesting story about an interesting life without exploiting that actor.
Yeah. And I think that, again, I want to reiterate, I don't stay away from all trans media, but sometimes I do enjoy trans shows and things like that, but not always. And again, just because it's transgender does not... You're not obligated. I'm not obligated to watch it, neither are you. And just because there's a trans character in it or a transgender theme doesn't mean it's always going to be good or that it's always going to be something that you even are interested in.
Right. It might be extremely bad, actually.
Yeah, transgender anime. There's all kinds of gender switching in anime, and I'm just not a big anime fan. So...
Not for you.
Not for me.
Okay. Well, cool. To our listeners, we would be really interested to hear what you guys think, or if there are some anime recommendations you can make to each other. I'm probably not going to watch it. By all means, please do that. Comment or tweet or email or hit us up on Facebook, any of those places.
Yeah, we'd love to hear kind of how you relate to transgender media. Do you watch it? Do you enjoy it? Do you love it? Do you hate it?
Is it a concern that you're going to be outed or that everyone's going to look at you for your reaction?
Yeah.
Let's hear your thoughts.
We'd love to.
Okay, well, thanks, Faith.
Yeah, thanks, Kath.
Thanks, everyone, for listening.
Thank you, guys.
Talk to you next time.
Bye. If you've enjoyed this episode and want to help us keep making more great content, go to patreon.com/genderrebels.
We have many different levels of support and lots of great rewards,
including drinks with the Gender Rebels at Stonewall.
Please leave a 5-star review on iTunes. That makes it easier for other people to find us.
And send your questions to questions@genderrebels.com or find us on Twitter @TheGenderRebels.
Music for The Gender Rebels is by Jasper the Colossal. Follow the link down below or download them on iTunes today.
And for all our episodes, visit genderrebels.com.
The Gender Rebels is a Come Back Sync production, copyright 2018. All rights reserved.
And to all you gender rebels out there, keep rebelling.
Bye.
Bye.
The squiggles looked okay.
Okay.
I'm talking loud.
I know.